Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 9 of our 10-day September intensive. Today's, not that any other day hasn't been interesting, I guess, depending on your perspective, but I think today will be especially interesting because, most days in preparing for these sessions, and I'm saying that I've done like tons of preparation, but usually I come in with a sense of something. Might be a glimmer of an exercise or theme, or capitalizing on something that was said in previous days or whatever. But this morning, leading up to this, I had this real sense of terror and disquiet for a bit, because I thought, I don't have this fresh angle to bring, or I don't have this new something, whatever it is that's supposed to be brought to these things. Like, usually it's just there, I don't have to think about it, but today I don't have that. And I was ruminating about that a bit and feeling kind of raw inside about it. And then I started to wonder, wait a minute, I'm really locked in an I concept, and an I concept of something that's not living up to the task, so to speak. And surely that must have some sort of connection to what it is that we're doing. So with this solid sense of an I that was feeling unprepared or loaded with goodies to bring, there was also a real sense of solidity in the belief of the reality of that I. I thought, well, wait a minute. If that I really has a problem, at the very least, that I has to be a real thing. And is that true? Like, put aside all the things you think you know about this understanding, and just go to this basic question: is this I that's worried about how fully equipped he's going to show up to this meeting? So even in expressing it, I find myself getting lost. If this I who's worried about it is a real thing, then yeah, maybe there's a problem here. But has there been this consistent I that can and can't be equipped with the proper things to do? Or is it, once again, a chance to recognize that the sense of an I that I've been carrying all my life has been an ever-changing thing that I've just put a superficial label over it called I, as if it was its own separated, solid entity. And then very quickly, I started to say, well, no, I've had endless different concepts of who I've thought I is. And then with the sudden re-recognition that I isn't a real continual thing, there was a collapse in all the worry about the things that I was worried about. I mean, that doesn't mean that, we don't have content to talk about on the call. But the idea that there was this problem and that it entailed suffering and that needed to be remedied and on just went away with the once again, collapse of the concept of the reality of the separate I. And I thought, well, maybe that's of value for all of us to talk about today. You know, while we were in the informal part of the call before Jimmy came on, Janice and I were just chatting, and she was also expressing some, some issues that she's grappling with. If you want to discuss them on the call, that's fine, or even in general, that might be helpful. But what I noticed, even as you were explaining it, was sort of the same. Although the details of your life are different, the same core themes seem to be there. Like, oh yeah, this I has this set of circumstances that has to be dealt with. Is any of that making sense? Is that clear, or is it even anything?
Yeah, it's not that clear to me right now.
Okay.
About the I, because it's more, it seems to be a lot more than one I involved in this. I know it sounds funny, but I feel like, this veil is starting to fight with, I'm fighting kind of with myself over it. And I don't like that feeling. It's like that struggle of, and that's just a temporary thing, I guess. It's just like not the place I want to be, because I, work very hard at trying to, it's easy to do yourself sometimes, but when, you have a lot of other, situations arising, then it becomes the peace and the happiness kind of get veiled. And that's okay. That's perfectly okay, because I can come back to it later. But that's not the point. The point with this whole thing was to try to stay, I guess. What is the point, Joel? No, it's not clear.
Okay. Fair enough, and thank you for expressing that so clearly. What I was struck by was a few sentences back when you started sharing about a minute ago. You said something to the effect of, I'm wrestling with myself over this. You said, okay. So that's where I think it would be helpful to start to put the spotlight to take a look at something. Because if I am wrestling with myself over something, that suggests two different entities, so to speak. There's an I, and there's a concept of myself that's in some sort of disharmony. And the I that's observing this sense of a self seems to be in conflict with it. So as a jumping off point, I would say, in that perspective, which you articulated, who is the I and who is the myself that the I is wrestling with?
I don't know. It seems to just be the reasoning of the situation for me. How much time, I'm not even thinking about the I really. I'm thinking about the time needed, and I just want to be in the here and now and not have to think about.
Okay.
Because for me, I don't really want to be in that space where I am torn between doing this and doing that. And
right.
that would be nice to be more in the flow of it. you know, and then just allowing it to be, but it's not happening. It didn't happen yesterday, for sure. And it's just an awareness of that, awareness of that. So like you were talking about, reflecting on that and stepping back from it and just letting it flow. And then, you know, maybe today it'll be different. Maybe it will flow today. Maybe now that you're aware of something, okay, just, you know, let it be and try to be in the here and now, and you know.
Yeah.
I know, that sounds a little.
Well, I'm not exactly recognizing my words in what you just said.
Yeah.
But
You were
but-
saying
but-
that the conflict with myself or the I, and
Yeah.
it's all the same. Myself and I are the same, is what you're saying, right?
No, I was asking, I wasn't saying, I was asking it in your perspective at this moment, how are you viewing that? That's what I was asking. But that's all right. Don't even go down that path for the moment. You said I wanted to stay in the here and now, right?
Yeah.
You said that before the call started, and you said it just now. So that's a subtler version of the same thing, because you have a sense of a you that may or may not be in the here and now, or that's vacillating, you know, really expending effort to maintain your residence in here and now, while being pulled by many seeming outside influences that could possibly take you out of that. So a starting point maybe, can you be anywhere other than here and now?
No, cannot.
It's possible here and now to have a very strong worry about not being here and now, but you would only have that worry here and now, right?
Right.
And as that seems to make sense, what do you notice?
I don't understand what you're saying.
But well, when you were a few moments ago, when you worried about whether you could stay in the here and now, was your feeling state different than right now when you realize here and now is the only place you can be?
Oh yes, absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if it's true that you can only be here and now, even though the worry about not being here and now could even become more intense from time to time, isn't it also an indication that this feeling more at peace, even though the time requirements are still looming, that this peace will still be behind all of it?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the way you're saying it, yes. Yes. Yeah.
So and thank you, but I just want to be clear. Yes, the way I'm saying it, but it's not coming from me because I'm saying it this way. I'm just pointing out something that's there, whether I say it or not, right? It's the reality is that piece of your own being is something that you cannot walk away from. You can only have a lot of thoughts about stuff that temporarily is clouding that. Because a limited, vulnerable I that seems to be contained just in our body and in our thoughts, and we'll share the limits of that body and thoughts, is not who we are. And each time we recognize that that's not who we are, well, then whatever circumstances seem to be distressing to that thing that we are not, the circumstances also disappear with the illusion of the thing that seemed to be vulnerable to it.
So are you saying, so when you cross that bridge, or what, that point, when you start feeling like that, you just kind of say, okay, to yourself, just be in the here and now, don't worry about what's around the corner, what's next, what's happening. I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Right. Cool. So let's keep biting at this same apple. Because just to acknowledge, so we notice that there's a piece that's available, even though the events of the day that seem to be taking me away from here and now, or making me worry about losing here and now, even those events are still looming and I still have to attend to them. By recognizing merely that I can only ever be here and now, so I don't have to worry about losing here and now. Just recognizing that starts to bring us back to peace. Okay. So moving forward, on the surface, it might seem like, oh yes, stay in the here and now is the required activity. Let's address this now. If it's true that we've just recognized a moment ago that you can't ever be anywhere but here and now, then is an activity required to stay in the here and now?
Yeah.
No. Okay. Right. So any concern about I need to stay in the here and now, we could just let go of that.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that. Okay.
Yeah. But from time to time, each one of us, no matter how much we've explored this, we will temporarily lose sight of it. But there's a subtle difference between I've got to get back to the here and now versus can't. It's not possible to be anywhere but here and now.
Maybe it's not the here and now. Maybe it's worrying about the outcome of something at the same time being in the here and now. I think that's my dilemma, the outcome and the here and now. And I'm more focused on the outcome and the time and and losing it. I shouldn't say losing it, but in a sense, from time to time, it's possible that happens.
Right.
Not always.
And this is great. And probably our normal course of action up until recently would be how to either manage the outcome or manage worrying about the outcome. So exploring this one step further, and this is an exploration. I'm not necessarily spitting out the gospel here that you've got to take down and this is it. The next thing I say could be just temporary. But what if being here and now meant not worrying about the outcome? What I mean by that is that the worry about outcome is just going to come and go like all our other thoughts are going to come and go. Because that's the nature of thoughts. They come and they go.
Yeah, sure, sure, of course, yeah.
And we're not going to be able to manage the thoughts that come and go. But what seems to be available to us is to become more interested in the arena within which the thoughts come and go. And by that I mean become more interested in the constant knowing of ourselves as here and now, no matter what is going on. The recognition we had just a moment ago that, oh, it isn't possible to be anywhere else but here and now. And here and now, there's a thought about worry about outcome. Here and now, there's a thought about worry about getting all things done. Here and now, there's a feeling that feels like anxiety. Here and now, that I'm here now, there's this content of experience that seems to be very intense. But all of the stuff that's the content of experience is sooner or later going to change into other content, while I, unlimited here and now, the unlimited Buddha nature, will always be this. It's not possible to be anything else. It's only possible to sometimes think about not being it and worrying about it. But even the not thinking about it and worrying about it are just thought forms taking place within it. Feeling experiences taking place within it. So we don't have to add an activity like going back to here and now. Because if we had to add the activity, then we would actually be in a place other than the only place we could ever be. So rather than it getting back to, it's just taking back the attention we've been placing on our thoughts and our feelings, and coming back to where that attention is emanating from.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's a great perspective.
Jimmy, do you have a counter perspective? Or did you hear anything in that needs elaboration? Or
so I think both Janice and I get about the here and now and the piece of the nature of here and now, and it's impossible for it not to be here and now. So I think that's really clear, and and this intensive has pointed that out. I also think that what Janice is asking is, there's in experience, there's things that come up, there's outcome that we worry about or are concerned about. And sure, that brings up, it could bring up anxious feelings. It could bring up whatever the feeling is that occurs from that. And I mean, that's all happening in the here and now. So experience is going to have a lot of is going to have a wide range of feelings going on in experience.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure, I want to say two things. One, I want to make sure that, I mean, it almost sounds, Janice, like you were saying, and it very well could be true. That experience should not have a wide range of feelings going on. If you're in the here and now, like, if you're,
Oh,
if you're doing it all right and understanding everything the way, you wouldn't have an unpeaceful feeling. I'm not so what's interesting to me is, because I can totally, I guess, relate to what you're saying, although my experience has been, even though I fully seem to understand that the here and now, the piece of the here and now, is never not present. There does seem to be this other element going on in experience of unpeaceful feelings. So I want, and then this is also a question for Joel. Are you potentially saying, if you do fully understand the piece of here and now and our true nature, that, well, you can't be saying this, but that you won't have unpeaceful feelings?
Oh, hell no.
Right. So I know you're not saying that, although sometimes, but I think you need to clarify that. I think that's the
Okay.
issue. So I think if you clarify that and speak about how, even though fully knowing the here and now piece and the presence of awareness, how does Janice's outcome anxiety or my outcome anxiety play into this piece of the here and now?
Sure. Sure. So we have a couple different strands. They're all kind of braided together. Because I tried to lead things off with the solid belief in the separate limited I. And then in exploring the specifics of Janice's situation, we didn't ultimately drift from where I was going, but we got more into the nuances of a portion of it.
Well, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Also, the example that you gave for yourself, it was happening for you, I think, the same way. Is it's not like you didn't realize the piece of the here and now. You were preparing for something in the future, in a sense, but I'm not real. I mean, you were preparing for the call.
Yeah. Right. So in the past, on the, of course, every day is a little bit different, but overall, there's been a flow to, what feels like this is the right thing with the group and what we've been talking about, what feels like it wants to come through. I know, sometimes in preparing, I feel like, oh, I saw something that was really interesting and I want to work this into the group. But it feels like I'm really trying to twist reality in order to make this make sense to the group. So that's usually not my choice of what to do beforehand. And then suddenly something comes up. Like a lot of times I'll have an exercise like at the last minute because, oh, this is a fresh thing that's responding to what feels like is part of the group. It's an impersonal, this is awareness talking to itself kind of feeling coming out in what it is that I'm sharing. Well, today that felt kind of no bullets in the chamber, so to speak. And then I went right to worry about that, like whatever pattern of my mind it created a worry, like, oh, I'm going to show up not loaded enough with stuff to bring to this. And there was a period where I was worrying about that until I realized, well, wait a minute. The problem isn't that I have or don't have something to say. It's that I'm really believing in this I to whom having something to say is a personal thing that is a problem that has to be handled. And when I saw through that, the problematic nature of it dissolved. And I thought, oh, we're starting in a couple of minutes. I could just show up, not needing to be this personal I and how I appear or anything, and just have this conversation with you, and that will lead to whatever needs to be talked about. But it's not about me and, oh, I did a good job today and I did a bad job yesterday, or I did an 8 today and I'm trying to do a 10 tomorrow. It's nothing to do with that. And then if I map that over to other problems in my life, oh, the places in my life where my circumstances seem to matter, where outcome is something that it's got to go this way and not the other way, it's because I'm still attached to a concept of a me who's vulnerable to how those circumstances unfold. It's not just that I would desire them to be a certain way, but it's like something is going to be harmed or damaged if the outcome is Z instead of X or Y. And it became clearer than ever that in the street, in any suffering that I've had along the way, when I'm talking about psychological or emotional suffering, because there's been this solid Joel guy who seems to be threatened by whatever is going on in the world if it doesn't happen a certain way. But that character has no consistency to it whatsoever. It's an ever-shifting series of concepts. And the thing that's consistent is the awareness that I am, that has known every different variation of a me that seems to be vulnerable to those circumstances.
Let me ask you a question, if this is any different than what you're describing, because I hear what you're saying, and I think it is a good thing that you've saw that in yourself, that, you know, I'm probably, yeah, you were too I identified, you know, separate self, Joel, I identified. So I think that's good. So let me just ask you this, is this any different? I'll just give you, like, you know, for instance, I'm building this house right now, right? And you know, and so there's like a, just call it a management team.
Okay.
And you know, you're going to a weekly meeting, and you know, I'm going to a weekly meeting, and there's I mean, people are busy, there's, construction, there's lots going on. If I don't necessarily come with good information, right, to be able to allow the construction team to keep working that day, right? Like if I just go like, oh, well, I don't know what I want you to do with that wall, then, most likely they're going to be like, okay, pay us the $1,000 a day that it costs for us to be here, and we'll just wait. We'll just wait for you to tell us what to do with the wall. So my point is,
I'm not saying the same thing, but go ahead.
okay, well, go ahead.
The specific requirements of that project have parameters that aren't the same exactly as this, right?
Well, and I could,
But-
and
but-
just
But
let me
but
just layer one last thing on so you can respond to it.
Okay.
And in going to that meeting, I could have easily, and sometimes I do, can be stressed out that, you know what, I'm not really sure what I want to do with that wall. And, and I'm looking at my watch. Okay, I got 1 hour left before I got to be at that meeting. I got 30 minutes left. It's still not clear to me. So there is some potentially eye ruminating going on in there also. Okay.
Yes. So again, but there are things that on a practical level in that project require preparation in a different way than this project does for me. But the analog, the thing that's the same is your essential being is not riding on you managing your managing team correctly or providing them. Even if you blow it, and even if there's stress on the transactional level and hitches occur according to the project the way you envisioned it, your you awareness will not be harmed in any way by anything that unfolds, no matter how it unfolds. That was the same thing that I realized in terms of this. That the only thing that made not being prepared and having some anxiety about not being prepared a problem was the identification with a non-existent but real seeming me who could be harmed by that outcome.
Well, right. It depends. Well, I see what you're saying. And, depending on what level you're referring to, I mean, the Joel that's supposed to show up and have stuff to say, and then this group is like, well, I don't like his class. He's unprepared. I'm not going to like join it next time and pay him money. I mean, that whole, you're saying that's a whole made up reality or?
Well, on one level, that's always true, whatever it is I'm worried about. I mean, on the practical level, that's always going to be what it is, whether I was selling lemonade online or doing this. But what's, and actually that's a good thing to bring up, because I'm sure there's a lot of so-called teachers of spiritual related classes who seem to live and die 1,000 deaths with who signs up for their program or how many people do it and how they're coming across, and oh, let's withhold this information because I don't want them to think that, the whole thing is a managing of their own believed identity it's about them as the teacher rather than, oh no, there is no messenger. There's just the message that we're sharing amongst friends.
Or the whole idea of, I need to make money from this, and I got to perform at a certain level for more people to sign up, and so I can pay my bills, blah, blah. I mean, it can
Yeah.
go on. I mean,
Yeah. Look at it. If you're in the coaching teaching business, thoughts like that are naturally going to arise. So it would be antithetical to the process to just bulldoze certain thoughts out of your mind. It seems to me what would be in alignment with this is like, oh yeah, those thoughts are coming. Thoughts about how my soccer team is doing are coming. Thoughts about how my sister is doing with some family issues are coming. Thoughts about how I'm going to manage this week's schedule because I got some stuff going on suddenly that needs to be rearranged. All of that's going to continually go on. But those are only problems from the standpoint of a limited, non-existent me who I believe to be vulnerable to those things. And so rather than trying to micromanage all of those things, and when I'm saying that, it doesn't mean that I don't have to attend to those things. I do. But I don't have to manage those things in order for this me that doesn't actually exist to have a better feeling. I need to see through the illusion of that me that doesn't exist. And then just deal with what comes up as it needs to be dealt with. And included in things that come up are thoughts and feelings and stuff. But they're no longer the universe weaponized against a vulnerable, limited me.
Yeah, I guess, I think you're being super clear. And what I'm hearing is, no matter what, I am okay. I am fine. Even though all this experience arises within that space of I am okay, and that experiential feelings and thoughts, there'll be a wide spectrum of what that produces, what I'm buying into. But the only thing that's causing the suffering is the misunderstanding that I'm not okay, no matter what.
Yeah. And the only thing that could be having that misunderstanding can only always be okay.
Right.
The form that I'm not okay takes is a created character with my name on it. But the consistency and the solidity and the stability that I've been looking for in the face of all these disparate circumstances is already this unbroken, unlimited awareness that I've always been.
It's like, hey, I'll tend to it and I'm okay.
I'll tend to it, and also all the myriad plot twists that I can't foresee that are coming. life will just be a continuous series of plot twists. And I, the audience, will just, experience each one of those things. You were saying something, Janice, but you were muted, so I didn't.
I was listening to both of you and thinking, yeah, I will tend to it. And then the plot twist is kind of like, and as that happens, you will tend to it and still be okay. So it's like, just you are the awareness, it's all the awareness anyway. It's just kind of like the place where you are, how you kind of I feel the attitude of it's better to be okay and go with that. And that's a better, to me, here and now moment than some other here and now moments. But let's not even, yeah.
So underneath all of the seemingly better and worse here and now moments is the only here and now moment that's unlimitedly okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was great. It's great. It's great. I think it's a wonderful thing to be aware of the awareness and the here and now. I've enjoyed it a lot. It's very helpful to be able, it's an opportunity to be able to just like listen to you guys talk in such depth and width and breadth and knowledgeable about it. And it's just amazing. It is amazing. It's not like your limited everyday talk, so I think it's just to know that it's like you come with a different, you show up with it in a different space than just being in that prior to what you used to be. And being a Buddhist, we've always expanded our life condition, or how you could say it, or one with the universe and nature, humanity and everything. But that's, getting out there philosophically. But, when you're with people, it's good. I feel what you were saying something.
No.
No,
I think even my understanding of Buddhism has deepened and clarified over things that I could say very assertively in the past, but I didn't have as clear a picture of.
Right, exactly.
And it always seemed like, oh, there's the concept that there's the Buddha nature and all of the other worlds and life conditions. And I could say it rhetorically, but I didn't live with a felt understanding of that so much. But now I'm seeing actually how that has to be true. That it isn't possible to walk away from yourself. And yourself is that ever-present, unlimited, peaceful here and now, or Buddha nature, which is sometimes colored by or spiced by or flavored with emotions of this sort, feelings of that sort, thoughts of that sort. But when those other flavors and spices and emotions and feelings were present, the Buddha nature didn't go anywhere. All of those variations are just appearing within it. And those will all continue to transform and dissolve one into another. And yet the Buddha nature will just be consistent. It'll just be there. And who I am has to be what remains when everything else comes and goes. I can't be in hell. I can't be sad. I could just experience those. if I was those things, when those things left, I would have to depart with them if I was them. So the only thing that I could be is the unbroken arena within which all those different experiences are happening and changing. I can't be anything other than that. That's a huge shift in, it almost does a disservice to say it's a shift in perspective. It's suddenly, it's just realizing what is.
It's going beyond the concept of it.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah, the
really
concept.
is. Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
even the concept of it is just an appearance within it. The concept comes and goes like a fog sometimes.
yeah. It's because it's just that, a concept, but you're like into the actual space of it, that the life of it, you call it existence, Buddha nature, within
Consciousness,
Earth,
hearing.
consciousness. There's so much. I mean, it's just, I can feel like I'm just touching the iceberg of it, but in a sense, it's so profound and broad. There's so many avenues you can take, but again, it all comes back to
And this is
points.
this is who you are when you have temporary concerns about your construction project management, or your life schedule management, or your financial situation dealings, or your family dramas and conflicts, or your stuff going on in the neighborhood or politically. All of that, very vivid, very powerful experiences when you're having them, but all of it happening within this unscathed arena of knowing yourself as the Buddha nature. Which ultimately has been the purpose of these intensives too, to more deeply than ever sink roots of our knowing of ourselves of this. Realizing, of course, we're going to forget it a squillion times a day. But even now, our forgetting of it there's a trace of it even in the forgetting of it.
Yeah.
And that trace of it is becoming more permanent behind even the forgetting of it.
I need a discernment between, or a clarification between forgetting that you're the Buddha nature versus the nature of experience is a full range of emotions, thoughts. So it's not like if you're never forgetting that you are the Buddha nature, that you will only have peaceful feelings.
Right. Of course not. But
we're almost led to believe, in a sense, and that's not from you, but somehow led to believe like, oh, if I thoroughly got it, I would not, I want to say not suffer in any which way, but for some reason that doesn't seem possible in this form. Or
well, so what becomes confusing for a lot of people is the distinction between certain feelings I have that I don't like versus I need this moment to be different than it is. Suffering is not only do I have feelings that I don't like, but I need these feelings to change to other feelings. And until they do, I'm not okay. That's suffering. Just feeling feelings that are sad or upsetting or whatever in and of themselves are not suffering. And part of the dissolution of the illusion of the separate self, what goes hand in hand with that is that, oh, the whole spectrum of feelings, from stuff we obviously prefer to stuff that we may not prefer, no longer looks like there's a rating scale to it. Oh, this feeling is better to have than that feeling. And when I have this feeling, I've got to really tinker with my understanding, so I'll get to the feeling on this part of the spectrum that's better. No, it's starting to realize all feelings are just the knowing of sensation. It's just the space that I am that knows all of this wide variety of feelings is untouched and undamaged by any feeling that's appearing within it. I'm not suffering because sadness has appeared or anxiety has appeared or frustration has appeared. I'm suffering because one of those has appeared, and I have this solid belief that this can't be this way, and I must get back to the other feelings. No, knowing who you are, you'll still have the full palette of.
Well, the question would be,
Right.
why would you have a suffering feeling? Is it only because you don't realize your true nature, or is it just another, it's just another?
Why it's what awareness does. It manifests thoughts and feelings continually. It's a continual activity of shifting content of experience.
Right, I was just wondering, does it shine a light on, like, when you are suffering, does it shine a light on, like, oh, I'm believing in the separate self, on some.
Well, doesn't it? If a feeling is more than just a feeling, if there's a thought attached to it that, oh, this is inferior to other feelings, then it has to be from the perspective of a finite mind that's perceiving it that way. And a belief in the reality of that finite mind. From the standpoint of the universe, the mind that is believing itself to suffer from the feelings, and the feelings are all just made of the universe. It's only from the perspective of the mind that has the feeling that, oh, that's suffering going on. Thank you, you guys.
Thank you,
I hope
Joel.
it was of value.
It was very helpful, both of you. Bye, Jimmy.
See you for our wrap up tomorrow.
See y'all. Thanks.
Enjoy your Sunday.